Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. We're happy that everyone could make it to a personal meeting. It is Thursday, June 4th, 5:30 p.m., and we are meeting, we're having our board meeting in the boardroom on Legacy Campus. We will begin with our roll call. We'll go ahead and start with you, Larry, and then just kind of weave around.
Larry Jepson, board member.
Roger Pulsfer, board member.
Kathy Christiansen, board member.
Terry Rhodes, board member.
Dale Hanson, business administrator.
Jeff Nielsen, board member. Chris Berger, board member. Randall Bagley, board member. Steve Dawkins, superintendent.
Okay, thank you. All righty. Oops, I need to get back on my, hang on. Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll go ahead and have our pledge and mission statement by Randall.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our mission is to educate students for success in a changing world.
Thank you, Randall. I don't think we have any public input, so we'll go ahead and move down to the consent agenda, and I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as printed.
I second it.
Any questions on it? Okay, we'll go ahead and vote.
Move your fingers.
Okay, all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay. All right, we'll move down to our action agenda next, and the first item on that part of the agenda is the review of the administrators, that's report, sorry. A request for approval of the emergency safety intervention revisions. I will take a motion to approve the emergency safety intervention revisions.
I make a motion to approve the emergency safety intervention revisions.
A second.
Any questions, or would you like to give us any more information? Do you want more information, anyone?
I don't think it needs any. They didn't change anything except moved it, right?
Right, yep, we just had to add that definition, the section to the definitions, which was part one, and then we just had to add the words physical escort to the administrative regulations, which was also part F, so.
Okay, we'll go ahead and vote on that then.
Okay, and all the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Thank you all so much, we so appreciate
Thank you.
all your time. This time we've learned how to step out quicker.
Oh.
The goal is to find out how fast you get out of the room.
Make it so awkward, like we did last time. So thank you so much.
Okay, so the next item is the request for approval of Phase 3 of Johnson Controls Building retrofits. And we haven't seen this before this meeting, right? No. Okay, all right, so.
We mentioned it, but not.
Okay, so we'll turn some time over to you to do your thing.
So why is it on the action agenda if we haven't seen it before?
Because they have to have it approved.
Oh, you don't mess with it. You know, it's kind of locked out.
Just touch the screen, I think on your left. Or your,
Yeah, just touch it. It's got a DO lab password. It's asking.
Might be right there.
just like your hat or take it in your hand or whichever's best for you.
This is interesting with I'm being circled by board members. I wanted to give an update on Phase 1 and Phase 2. As you know, we started Phase 1 just about a year ago, trying to get the schools, the lighting done in the schools before they started. Unfortunately, we kind of got started as school got started at the end of the day by the time we got everything lined up. But I'm happy to tell you that of the 11 schools in Phase 1, we are 90% or complete on 10 of the 11 schools. The 11th school in which we haven't started yet is Skyview High School, and the reason for that is we have the school torn up, putting drop ceilings in all the classrooms. And so those will be new fixtures that will go in once all the drop ceilings are installed, and new lights will be going in there. Things are going along very well on that project at Skyview. We're actually ahead of schedule. All the demolition's been done as far as ripping out the old ceilings there. The T-bar has been put in almost all the classrooms at this point, and now we just have the inspector come in and put the panels back in, the lighting in, and they're painting behind us and putting carpet in behind us. So still a lot to do, but we're ahead of schedule right now as far as getting that done. So things on Phase 1 and Phase 2 are going very well. There's other projects that we're doing in there as far as building automation and building envelope. All those have been done too. So project is moving along very, very well. There we go. Can you put that, please, that move? So I keep wanting to move. I don't have a big enough voice, I guess.
That mic, just pull it out and you can walk with it, yeah.
Okay. The reason why we're talking about a Phase 3 today and why it wasn't included in Phase 2 was it dealt with a grant from Rocky Mountain Power. And the grant period had not opened up last year when Phase 2 is ready to go. In fact, it didn't open up till January as far as accepting grant applications. So in January, we came and met with the district administration. We gave them some samples of what we think we could do as far as an application, as far as what it might look like, as far as putting PV solar in at 2 of the sites, Lewiston and Summit. And we decided we would go for a 50% match, and we would try to get the funds to do that. I'd like to talk to you about where we came from there. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we'll talk about the grant process and what happened there. We'll talk about the educational opportunities that are associated with this grant and requirements from Rocky Mountain Power. I'll show you the layout of the Lewiston and Summit PV systems, and then we'll talk about the cash flow and any questions and next steps as far as where we go next. So again, as we said, we decided to go for a 50% match. We originally had it at 60%, but we decided if we went to 50, we'd be more competitive with other people that are highly competing for these, competitive process for this grant money. I'm very proud to say that of the 12 applications that were submitted, only 7 were awarded, and Cache School District won 2 of those. When I talked to Rocky Mountain Power and I said, was that difficult giving one customer 2 of the applications, they said yes, but the quality of the application and the grant was such that they couldn't turn it down. I might add that of the grant money, over 50% of the total grant money that's available is coming to Cache School District. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. So of that grant money, over $409,000 is coming for the Lewiston project. Summit's about $227,000 for a total of $637,000 of grant money from Rocky Mountain Power to buy down this project, or approximately 50% of the total cost of the project. Next screen. So some of the requirements that Rocky Mountain Power has to participate in this grant, besides putting a PV system on the schools, is they want an outreach program. They want an educational program. They want to educate people, students, parents, anybody that's interested in PV systems and how they work and what the benefits are. So each of the Lewiston and Summit by the main office will have a kiosk that will be displayed above the office there that will have live information as far as how much energy their school is generating at any one time, along with educational messages about what that's doing for the school district and for the environment. There's a eSTEM program that we'll pick out a 5th or 6th grade class at each school that can participate, in which there's 6 different solar, shall we say, lessons that are there that a teacher can use to supplement their regular curriculum and have it relate with the PV system. We provide Train the Trainer. National Energy Foundation, which is located here in Utah, will come up and actually train the teachers on the curriculum so that they don't have to learn it themselves. We'll provide the training for that. And there's an annual celebration each year that we do. Rocky Mountain Power, along with Johnson Controls, will come support the school district in having this celebration, in recognizing maybe on Earth Day or some other type of event that the school maybe already has planned, and again, celebrate the green energy and what's associated with it. Some of the things that we would share with the kids, and I'd like to share with you, is by having this system in these 2 sites, it's the same as if you've planted over 200,000 trees for 10 years. That's how much CO2 emissions it's removed from the environment. Or over 1,400 homes that you would be able to take those emissions that those 1,400 homes would be generating, you'd be saving. Or 103 cars off the street, which for me in air quality, that's a big thing. Anything we can do to clean up our air is an important thing. The next slide is a picture. We'll do Lewiston first, and you can see how the panels will be located on the roof there. We're able to use a lot of that roof space because it's a relatively new roof. We didn't want to put a PV system on a roof that wasn't new or next to new, because the panels are going to be up there for the next 25 plus years. So we wanted to select, so we worked with Bruce Parker in selecting that and making sure that was working. And the PV system will generate 87% of the energy that school uses, which is quite remarkable. Next slide. Summit, as you can see there, we have a panel layout. That system is smaller, primarily because where you don't see those panels, those roofs are not as in good condition. So we did not want to put panels up there that would have to be removed to fix the roof or do roof repairs. So we downsized the system there at Summit, and instead of 87%, that school will be generating over 66% of the energy that they use through the PV system. Next. One more slide. On the cash flow, it's very hard to see up there on the screen. Hopefully you can see it on your screens better. What was very important about this was that we contain all the costs to operate this system over the next 25 years within the project. Okay, so Bruce Parker doesn't have to take money out of his budget to go have guys go clean the panels or to replace an inverter or if a panel goes down. So there's warranties for the next 25 years, so if anything should happen to the system or to maintain the system, it's all included in this formula, this pro forma we have here. All cost, even the educational costs that we talked about, the curriculum, the things of that nature that are part of this program. All costs are included. Nothing comes out from the district from any other way. And over the next 25 years, you can see that the district will save over $562,000 in energy costs through this system. You might note that it says on the slide there, net benefit over the term is $461. That was when we were running at 95% guarantee factor, or we were going to guarantee 95% of what we estimated it would generate. Dell put the screws to us and made us do 100%. So that's why we're at 562 versus the 461. It's it's over $100,000 or thereabouts, more attractive than it was before. Let's see. Next slide. As far as next steps, Rocky Mountain Power actually required Dell to fill out an MOU that was actually due in May. We spoke with them and got an extension on that till June 6th. So after board action tonight, Dell would be required to sign the MOU with Rocky Mountain Power, stating that they're interested in pursuing this grant. Shortly thereafter, really the next few days, we'll have the contracts to Dell to start contract review and set up financing of the project. we expect the contract to be, or excuse me, the project to be completed by December 31st. That's actually a requirement by Rocky Mountain Power that we have it online by December 31st of this year. What's nice about this project is we already have the monies in the base project for project management and other things, so we're able to slip this project in and not have to add those additional costs. Our project managers that are actually running the other projects throughout the district will also oversee this project and have this, make sure this project goes in well. So next slide. Any questions?
Anybody have questions?
Me?
Okay.
So I see that the, sorry, I gotta get to the slide that I was looking at. That the debt is for 20 years. Is that right? How it will be done? So in 20 years, what happens to these, to the PV systems? Because over time, those panels have to be replaced.
Correct.
So how will they, in 20 years or whenever they need to be done, how are they recycled, and how much will it cost to replace them?
That's a great question. For the first 20 years, any PV panel that goes out is replaced under this contract
Okay,
and recycled, as you mentioned, and taken care of. The PV panels have a projected life of 25 to 30 years. So after 20 years, if a panel goes out, the district would need to replace the panel if you choose to do so, or you could choose not to replace the panel. You own the system after 20 years is what I'm saying. There's no more debt. You just get the benefit for whatever that system's generating at that point in time.
okay, and so are these systems, are these panels the moving with the sun type, or are they fixed?
They're fixed.
Okay,
Yep, they're fixed. There's not a real benefit in this location geographically to have them rotate, unlike others. In Hawaii, based upon how it sits there, we actually rotated the panels with the sun. Here, it's not as cost effective.
okay.
What does PV stand for?
Photovoltaic,
And then what does MOU, the Rocky Mountain MOU, what's
it's a
that?
memorandum of understanding that states the obligations of the district under this agreement. And
Then I just had one other question. What happens to these panels, like if the roof has to be repaired before the 25 years?
you can do roof repairs around the panels. You don't necessarily always have to remove them. We're putting on a ballasts system, so we're not making a lot of roof penetrations. There'll be very few roof penetrations when we put the system online. That's why we picked newer roofs, so you don't have to have that problem. But if you did get a leak, most of the time you can work around the panels and take care of the leak. If worst case, you could always remove some panels and do the work if necessary. Certainly don't have to remove all of them to take care of a roof leak. But that's really why we picked new roofs, to avoid that problem.
Yeah, Bruce feels pretty comfortable that these roofs will outlast the system.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
Does the, so with the amount of power that's produced on these two schools, does it provide, I assume that it provides excess power for what the school requires, so that's the part of the cost savings is that, so does, then the power goes into the grid and Rocky Mountain Power is okay with that?
Yes, it's called net metering, and we are tied into that. And what happens is any excess power, let's say like on a Saturday afternoon when the school is empty, but you're generating that power, it goes back into the grid, and they pay you just over 6 cents a kilowatt hour for what you put back in.
So it's down to 6 cents now?
6 cents.
Okay,
And you pay about 9 cents when you buy the power. So they're getting it at a discounted rate, but then again, they got to transport it, and they've got to
Okay.
do what they do with it, so.
Okay. I'll take a motion then to approve Phase 3 of the Johnson Controls Building retrofits.
I move that we approve phase 3 of the Johnson Control Act. I said.
Any other discussion or questions? Okay, we'll vote.
Okay, all of the votes are in and unanimously in favor of the motion.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming. Okay, we'll move down to the reports, and the first one is, I think all of us got invites to the Administrator Summit, which was held Tuesday and Wednesday, and Terry and I attended those meetings, and I just thought it would be nice if all of us had an update on what happened at the meeting and so forth. So are you doing that?
I'm going to give that update. Can I talk to Scott just for a second out in the,
Okay,
so I don't know if we've got, and then next it goes to Gail, doesn't it?
yeah. Do you want to do the,
I'll just be a second.
should we wait for you or go on?
Yeah, just wait.
Okay,
Get Gail going, she might not want to quit.
see ya. Yes.
We'd be calling for the Reader's Digest version.
I was gone 2 weeks ago to Colorado and California, looking at solar. He was working on solar farms, like hundreds of acres of solar.
How fun.
Yeah, only those ones move.
Oh,
Why don't you turn on those lights, 'cause I won't be using them.
Those ones move and they follow the sun.
They have to make a presentation to 2 state associations on opening schools, and they want a copy of everything that's in my file. And so I was just going to give it to them, and then I realized that if I let it go, I wouldn't have it to make this presentation.
okay.
So we're going
It's
to,
not mine.
we're going to send it to them. It's okay. So this isn't really going to be a wrap-up of that 2 days, because 2 of you board members have already been there. So what I thought might be more advantageous, if I gave you a lot of the material that we covered there, and you that didn't attend would take some time and go home and just look through the packet, and then the next time we get together, or at the retreat, we could spend some extra time. It'll be much more meaningful to you if you've had a chance to go over and spend some time. You might have had some of this by electronic, but I'm going to give you a written copy, because in my world, it's always easier to sit down and work with a printed copy than it is to try and look at a screen, and so that's what you've got. So just a little bit of setting the stage. We've had this virus with us about 6 months. It's about what the world's knowledge about this virus steps back to. So there are some things we've learned, and there are some things we just don't know. So I printed off a list today of the things that we just don't know yet. So I'm going to start with that. We do not know how many people have been infected. We don't know the amount of virus it takes to make you sick. We don't know why some people get so much sicker than others. The role of children in spreading this virus, we just don't know yet. When or where the new coronavirus started spreading, and how long you'll be immune after you're infected. So those are the givens that we just don't know. So when we talk about meeting as a group of administrators, there's a whole lot of answers that if we had, we could probably do a better job of preparing. So owing to that fact that we just don't know much about this virus, we felt that it would probably be really good to talk about what happened the last 2 months of school as administrators, what lessons did we learn, and what do we need to do to get ready for the opening of school in the fall. So also printed off today Dr. Fauci. His title of this one was, and you don't have these in your group, so I'll tell you when you've got them in your packet. Fauci said it's time to think about reopening schools. That's the headline, okay? The idea of keeping schools closed in the fall because of safety concerns for children might be, in quotes, a bit of a reach, said Dr. Fauci. In a phone interview, he noted that children tend to have milder symptoms or even no symptoms when they are infected with COVID-19. Okay? What's not clear yet is whether children get infected as frequently as adults and whether they often pass the infection on to others. Ultimately, he said, the decision to reopen schools needs to be predicated on the level of infection in each community. Okay? So, Dr. Fauci has a whole same list of things he doesn't know, I don't know. Joel Allred used to say in order to run special ed, you had to be almost a lawyer. And he was all the time wrapped up with legal discussions because of all the special ed laws. I am not going to become a medical specialist, but I know that I need to educate myself with all the latest information I can get, because for some reason this particular issue has become very political, and that's not new to this generation. You can go back to 1918 and it was very political then. The difference in 1918 is the president then, Wilson, took almost no interest at all in the pandemic and left it up to states and cities. And we had a war going on at the same time, and he spent his time worrying about World War I. But it still became a political issue. So you, if you're like some of the email that I've seen come to Kathy, and I don't know how many others of you are getting emails from parents, but there are certainly strong enough opinions out there that whatever we do, we're going to have some people who will be with us, and we'll have some people who think, whoa, where did that come from? And we're going to do our very best to hit a happy medium. But we not only have to worry about the safety of children, because we are the ones who bring the children into our schools, we have to worry about the people that take care of those kids. And our teachers are, many of them are in the category of high risk, either because of age or because of health conditions. And then we send these kids back home to their parents and grandparents. So we just wish that we had a little more information about how kids interact with this virus and how rapid they spread it. And there's just a whole bunch of questions that if we had the answers, we'd know much more better what to do. So I've included in your little packet, I think, 3 letters that have come either to me or to Kathy. And I just want you to read to catch the tone, okay? I think you've got one called Fall School Reform. Is that one, that in your packet? Should be right towards the front. No, nobody's finding that one? Okay, maybe that's not in there. But you got a couple others. You got the poll, how comfortable are Utahns going back to church? You got that one?
Yeah.
Okay, look at that just for a second. That's a fresh off the press poll done by Rasmussen, who I think is a political pollster that most Utahns believe, which is kind of hard to find. But if you look on the second page of that, you'll find that how they did it. The question was, how comfortable are you with attending school in person? It's the third one down. It's an even split, 49 to 49,
What does that look like? Oh, top one,
okay?
thanks.
So we've got a split population out there that feels like, hey, it's all right to send my kid back to school, and you got 49% saying, I'm not sure that it's okay to send. So that's a little survey that you can look. There's some other things even about church and other things, so that's in there. And right after that should be a couple of letters addressed to Superintendent Norton. So apparently she didn't get the one addressed to Kathy Christiansen. I'll send that to you. But I think you'll be kind of struck with the tone and tenure of these letters. These aren't people who are just trying to see if maybe talking to you might do some good. They're telling you how it's going to be, or they're going to keep their kids home. Okay? So I'm just telling you that's kind of the tenure of the correspondence that's coming in, and the correspondence right now is all mainly, you're not going to do anything. Let the kids come back to school and let it be, let it be. And I'm sure when people realize that's the kind of letters we're getting, we're going to get the other side who's going to come and say, don't you be telling me you're going to let kids come to school and let be what will be. You better be doing disinfecting, you better be doing social distancing, you better be doing masks, better be doing all these things, or I'm not sending my kid back. So I think we're going to see both sides of the argument. Then I gave you a copy of the Administrative Summit agenda. It's 3 pages long, okay? And then you'll get into what I think is the information you ought to spend a little time studying. They're parent surveys. There's 2 from the south end, and that's secondary and elementary, and there's 2 from the north end. And I think it would behoove you to spend some time reading what the public actually had to say about the 2 months under that kind of schooling. I don't think it's assignment or homework. It's just good reading. I think you'll enjoy it. Then there's the student result survey in your thing. That's all information that Tim, we had focus groups come in, we asked them questions, and we got the information so we could tell what did parents like about that experience? What didn't they like about the experience? What should we do different if and when we have to do it again? So I think you'll find that reading very, very interesting and appropriate. Then you'll find a packet called Reopening Guidance Version Number 1. This is a draft from the state board. Maybe some parents have got a hold of this. I don't know. Maybe this is where they're getting riled, because this starts to lay out some guidelines about what we should do when we bring kids back. I think it will definitely not stand in its present form, but it'll give you an idea of what kind of direction we might receive from the state office, okay? Then we took a shot, our nurses did, at putting together one for the Cache County School District. You might want to spend some time in that, because
This one, they have a copy of electronically too.
they do.
Yeah. I put it
This
on.
one came out electronically.
Yeah.
But I've given you a hard copy,
Okay.
okay? And then you've got the phase guidelines that came from the governor's office, okay? What's red, what's it like orange, what's it like? This is version what, 4.5? Time we get done with summary, we might be at 7.5. This thing changes a lot. But that's the information that we spent time with all the principals, and we tried to pick their brains, asking them how they thought things went with the final ending of school. And by the way, if you haven't watched all 4 graduations, I think that's worth your time. And if you don't know how to get there, just call the office and we'll help you get so you can see all of them. I think I told our principals to look at all 4 of them, because I think some schools did certain things better than other schools. And I think if they all looked at each other's, they could probably pick and choose and make theirs better, but boy, they did a marvelous job. And I don't see how you could be a student graduating in 2020 and think you were shortchanged, because we'll never do that again, the individual attention. However, I'll give you a little projection. I don't know if we'll ever be back in the spectrum. I think you've seen in a different version, and I think it might come down to some kind of recognition that takes longer and allows more interaction, and then you would have a big party sometime at a different time, however that class would like to celebrate together. I sat in front of Green Canyon for about a half hour waiting for my son and my grandson who was graduating, and on the way in, parents were really excited. On the way out, they were ecstatic. They loved what had happened to their kids inside those schools. And it was a little harder to catch the flavor of how parents felt with the car one, drive-through in Skyview, but I think they enjoyed it too.
They seem to.
Yeah.
Yeah. they seem to
So,
enjoy it.
so I'm just telling you, you've got some really good people in this district who, Tim Smith was the one who approached me and said, let's do a summit. And he said, I'll do it for you if we can get an idea of what we're looking for. And he put together a really fine 2-day seminar. But each of our principals, I think, did a wonderful job of getting their school to the end of the school year. And we can be very proud of what happened. But we'll have to get better, because I don't think we're going to get through the year without a little disruption. It'll only take one kid getting sick and maybe getting a staff member sick, and we'll have a whole nother degree of anxiety level. And I do know this, they are going to, it's kind of evolved to, it wouldn't be an overall closing of all the schools, I don't think, again. It will be an isolated area that they'll say, okay, Cache Valley, things are out of control up there with the virus, we're going to shut your system down for a while, and I think that's how they'll handle it in the future. But the one thing you need to keep in mind is we will not make the decision of whether school's open or closed. That's not in your preview, it's not in my preview. It's a state call or it's a local health department call. And so we won't be faced with that, but we will be faced with creating the environment that we feel is safe for kids and that is also free enough that for those parents who think, as the letters in here point out, they want to go back to how it was, and they think we can do that. Now, I've been reading about Denmark and Finland. You might want to do a research on those 2 countries. They went back in April, and they have not had a spike. South Korea went back, and they did have a spike, and they shut their schools back down. Don't know if they're still closed, but we've got samples out there all over the world of people who are ahead of us, and we ought to learn from them. And my only plea would be to you is that we use data and information to make our decisions, and we don't get caught up in the emotion of red or blue. Any questions?
Then I've been interested in maybe what the legal exposure would be for us to open up again, but if someone else is making a decision,
Yeah.
that kind of, it seems like it would
You know, I think that is, I don't think there's any liability on school districts for opening. Now, there's always the case, if you do something or don't do something that you should have, that a normal person would have done, I mean, we can't create an atmosphere that we know is not safe for kids. So, we have the state attorney general's office, and they represent us in our risk management. So I think as long as we do what the health department tells us, or the state office of education, or the governor's office, our liability will just not be there. But if we start saying we want to do things different, like Murray School District, if you remember back, Murray was the first school district to shut down, and the board made a decision they were going to shut their school district down. I don't know who their legal counsel was. Maybe they didn't even check with legal counsel, but they didn't have the authority to do that, and they went ahead and did it. And I'm sure they realized that they got the health department involved the next day, and the health department probably covered their tracks. But yeah, we don't have the power to shut down. We might be told that we can't open, which would still take the decision out of our hands.
And then as far as
Go ahead.
as far as going back, I know we've had several big cost impacts to deal with the prevention side of it at work. Do we have some idea of what, about some of the cost analysis on what it would take to take these preventative measures? If and when we do go back with the social distancing.
Yeah. Okay, let me just tell you from our perspective, and we'll bring, when we put the final guidelines into a version that we want to have you, board, approve, but I can tell you right now, we've kind of come to the conclusion that we want to bring all the kids into school, and the best that we can do under those circumstances, we won't be dealing with social distancing. We will be worried about hand washing, masks, if we can go there, plastic shields, cleaning. We will have all the equipment to take care of our schools, but we are not going to social distance, and we think Logan has at least started going down the road of having only half their kids come into school. They want to have a meeting with us this next week, and they kind of, I think the goal of that meeting would be to get us to go along with that. I just have a firm belief that parents and patrons aren't going to go for a half a day or an every other day schedule, because it's just disastrous in a lot of homes. Having a parent have to take care of kids either a half a day every day or every other day or whatever area you go for. And so even though I know in Seoul, Korea, they are only bringing half the kids in except for their seniors. Seniors get to come and be there all the time. But I just think we're going to do everything we can, but we don't have the luxury of social distancing unless patrons would want to take care of their kids every other day or every other half day, or they'd want to build more spaces to have kids come to school. I don't think either one of those. The second one you can't do in time to start school. And the second one, I just don't think, I know parents don't want to go back to having the kids at home. I know that. So I think we ought to do everything we can to promise them that if they'll send their kids to school only when they're healthy. And that's not an easy thing either, because
Very subjective.
yeah, and we have a lot of parents who, they're not, if they're able to get up and get dressed, they want to send them out the door and to us. And I think we've got to be very strict in saying, we're going to take your temperature and we're going to look for the signs, and if you've got them, you're going to go home. And I think
Steve, can you tell about the money too? That there's been, you were wondering about the money. There's been money allocated to our district to help with covering the expense of.
Yeah, there has been.
So,
Uh,
will you just explain that?
Well, Dale can speak on that when he gives you your budget.
Is that okay?
There's over $1 million that's come to our school district. And we've allocated that out for technology and for cleansing of school buildings and buying all the things necessary for that. And we had personnel costs. That one day that we didn't have a professional development day, and we canceled that and spent our time preparing for, that was about a $340,000 savings to the district, that we could say that we used it as a preparation day to get ready for the kids because of COVID. And so we didn't have to take that money out of the general fund, so Dale was able to get that money and put it back into our general fund. So those, I don't think money is going to be the issue. The only time money would be the issue is if we tried to social distance. And we've got some classrooms that have tables instead of desks. And we might have to try and figure out so we don't have kids sitting across from each other. Yeah. Other issues? I mean, there's probably things we haven't even thought about. But as more information comes in, I just hope we'll err on the side of caution. Mothers and families are responsible for their own kids. We are responsible for all the kids that come to our schools. And so you might have a parent who has really strong feelings, as you'll find in these letters, but you can't let that override the fact that we have a whole bunch of parents who haven't written us anything, but they're expecting that we take care and show the courage necessary to do the things that we think are necessary to keep their kids safe, even though some parents might not want to participate. And there are families that liked what happened during that 2 months in their families. They liked the fact that their kids were no longer tethered to a schedule that they had to wait for the last kid in the classroom to get it. And their kids were able to function, get their homework done, and then they had time to spend with the family. And there are parents who might not send their kids back. They might keep them home and do homeschool now. They've tasted of it. There are others, absolutely. The last thing they want is to see those kids after the August deadline that school starts. So we have the full gamut. Yeah. Okay.
Would it save us any money to not have graduation at USU?
Did we save money? Dale, how much does that? I don't know, but yeah, we did. I can promise you that the high school spent more money than the savings we did from not going up there. But I think it comes out of different pots. We probably pay the,
Schools, we don't pay it, no, the
oh,
schools.
school pays to
pay
rent
for all
the
that.
place?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they took that money and put it into yard signs and all that.
Okay.
I was going to ask the same question to Jeff, regarding legal issues having to do with how we're protecting kids and also patrons in the district. I mean,
Will you use the mic? Can he have the mic, please? Thank you.
Thanks. I mean, I've been really involved in a lot of the university planning for the fall, you know, to respond to, you know, whatever requirements the state imposes. And I guess I feel a little bit of dissonance because, you know, these letters are really interesting, and I'm sure that parents in the district are all over the place, you know, in terms of what they want to see happen, clearly. I mean, we don't really have any Get Survey data that tells us, you know, just proportionally how many feel, you know, feel about these issues in these different ways. But, you know, on the one hand, when we're communicating with district patrons and they're raising, you know, issues like these and they're expressing strong opinions, on the one hand, you know, the response of the district is dictated by state requirements. And so, you know, I feel on the one hand, like if somebody approaches me about it, you know, any of my neighbors or people who live in my precinct, my response is, well, we're trying to respond given the requirements from the state. And so the state is really dictating. On the other hand, you know, it does seem as though, you know, you said, for example, that Logan is possibly going to do something different than Cache. And so there does seem to be some freedom, you know, for individual districts to decide how to implement those guidelines. And so I guess, you know, I'm not putting this on your shoulders, but I guess I'm just throwing it out to all of my colleagues here on the board. You know, what is the best message to give? You know, where do we feel like as a district there's some freedom, you know, to manage this more locally, and then where are those requirements dictated from, you know, the state board and the state Department of Health, for example? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, those are the two entities that control what we have. And if you'll spend time in that one document that's a draft from the state board, you'll kind of get a flavor for where they're coming and what kind of freedom they're giving us. But yeah, essentially, whether I don't think the health department's going to come out and say, you will mask every kid and you will mask every staff member, and I just don't think they're going to do that.
Yeah, that's
They're
what
going to
we're
leave
doing.
that to us.
Like every face-to-face class on campus is going to have, it's going to require students to wear masks.
And you deal with an adult population.
Right.
And these people are saying children are not going to, I mean, I'm just trying to encapsulate what they say. Kids are not going to get the benefit of the mask because one, they're not going to wear them properly. Two, they're going to touch them all the time. And three, you're creating an atmosphere of fear because you're putting kids in masks. And at what age could you say, is it the sixth grade that we put everybody in masks, and below that we put a plexiglass screen on every desk? I don't know. Those are all things we're still trying to work through.
Yeah, no, I'm not concerned with those details because I know these are moving targets. But, you know, in terms of responding to people who, you know, who are kind of all over the place, I think it would be nice to have.
Tim has been responding to those people, and he's got a great letter. So if you're looking for like a particular letter that's sent to everybody, is that what you're?
Not necessarily a script, but just a way to, you know, convey to people that there are things that we can control and things that we can't.
I'll have to go back and read his letter again, but I think he has that in it, that he sent to a couple of the parents.
Yeah, and in my mind, philosophically, I kind of need to know where I'm at. I'm with trying to build a social contract with parents, that we want their kids in school, they want their kids in school. There's certain things we got to do, and that is, if we're going to have everybody come, we got to have just the healthy ones come, and not send us kids who are sick. And we got to have that same contract with our teachers, that they won't come sick, and that if a kid is sick, we will do everything within our power to make sure that they do not fall behind, no matter how long it takes. But we are gonna have to have some hard and fast rule, like 48 hours of no fever before you come back. That's kind of where I'm at, because I just believe seriously that it's a real disruption to this valley and to our economy for parents to have to worry about a kid being home half a day or every other day. Now, if you feel differently, we're going to be talking with Logan, and we can certainly listen to everything they have to say. And we might want to do some surveys and find out how deep and the feelings are out there in relationship to, would it be better to be able to social distance kids? We can't do that by bringing them all in. There's just no way.
Would it be at all possible, I mean, how easy would it be to have a survey that, you know, 2 or 3 questions or something? So district parents where you just ask, you know, if this is what we, you know, or how willing are you to send your child into this kind of environment or something like that, just to gauge that.
I think that would be money and time well spent.
Well, Tim did that with the surveys that we have copies of, interviewing the parents and
Yeah.
the students
But we
on how
didn't-
they liked that. And it didn't seem like that was really too hard to send that out to everybody, and they got about 2,000 responses back. So I think it'd be really easy to do that through Tim's office, just send it out.
Yeah. Yeah, if you'd like to help fashion up some questions, it'd probably be good for you to give Tim a call and just find out what information he has received. And but yeah, that's kind of where we're at. And Davis has come out very strong that, at least our superintendent did. He went public and said that absolutely social distancing isn't something that we can even consider. So he got it out there, and maybe that's why we're getting some feedback. I don't know for sure. But Tim's response to masks right now, that little detail, is that we'd give it the summer to see how it plays out in our society at large. But any amount of data we could pick up on just some simple questions, well worded, so that it doesn't, problems with surveys, people think you're trying to direct them one way or the other. So we'd need some professional help, I think, in writing those questions so that it doesn't appear that we're trying to take them one direction or another.
Yeah, these were really good questions that he asked here.
Yeah.
So, Chris, do you want to follow through on
Okay.
that with Tim
All right.
and see what we could,
Yeah,
what we
I'm
could get
sure he-
as far as parent input?
Oh, and I think we've got to make sure that, that we keep the understanding that we're still dealing with some moving targets here, and we can't be too careful there as far as not painting ourselves into corners.
So maybe by the next meeting in 2 weeks, Chris, do you want to have some information to report to us on that? And okay. So we'll just put you on the board committee report next time with what you find out. Okay. Any other? Everybody good? Just a couple of things, Steve, that you can take back. That meeting was excellent, and I did let Tim know that I thought he did a wonderful job, but I think that was so good for the administrators to be able to have their say and give their input, and there were, like you said, more questions than answers by the time the meeting was over. The second thing I just want you to know too is on our meeting today with CEA, what's it called? The CEA?
CEA, yeah. Teachers Association.
Negotiations, yeah, thanks. Negotiation meeting, Teresa did a great big shout out for all of the district people who have helped them, because she said the teachers were very appreciative of all of the help that they received from the district, so just wanted to make sure you knew that.
Forget about the fourth button down, kill the lights on the screen.
Okay, Dale, you're up. Just go ahead and take us through the next 3 items.
So we have 3 reports to give tonight. First one is involving the final legal budget for this current 2019-20 school year. And so, really the process we've been following all year long. The board approved the preliminary budget last spring, last June. And then we've been operating throughout the year, adjusting the budget as we've had new information come in with updated state revenue estimates or whatever carryover balances from the prior year after the audit was completed. And so we've been operating under a working budget with those adjustments being made continually throughout the year. This final legal budget then is the one that will be used when we have our audit start really about in August, early August. And I'll go back through and that's the measure that we're held against in our operations. Probably the biggest thing is to make sure we didn't operate in excess of budget in this situation. But, so federal programs, this is the one that Jeff, you were asking about, the federal funds we receive under what they call the CARES Act. So there's the second line of federal revenue there is tied to what they call the ESSER program, or the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Rescue Fund. So with that, we're receiving $1,150,000 funding, and that will spread over a couple of years that we can use those funds, but however we use it, it still has to be directly tied to effects of the COVID-19 virus. And so the superintendent mentioned many of the areas in which those funds are kind of isolated out as to how we anticipate that they'll be spent. Again, some of those things may change just depending on what history brings here as time evolves. So most of the others, again, a lot are from carryover balances in federal funds or from allocations that maybe were updated throughout the year from what we originally had as estimates.
This is maybe a minor thing, but just I'm noticing a lot of percentages in the column are just off. I think it's just because the formula was based on it.
I think what's happened is a number of these were first built with the preliminary budget being zero and then an increased budget would give it an error message because you have one zero as a denominator when you're looking at your increase. A lot of these have just folded it and put 100% in there because the increases there. So yeah, that's true. I double check those formulas. Did I say zero? I don't say zero. Not appropriate. The student activities fund, again, the funds held out in schools, the only change there was in the fund balance reflected. Debt service, again, was carryover balance at year end, not knowing exactly the exact amount of local property taxes that would be received by June 30th. That adjustment there then is carried over with an increase in the carryover balance. And then that's, again, restricted funds only to be used for debt service, so that has to be tied back to future debt service. Capital outlay fund, we increased there, was carryover again. As a number of these projects have been started a year ago, anticipated to be completed through this past year to now. And so trying to anticipate where it was at year end, we was anticipating very diligently, because we did funds would carry over and complete those projects, and those funds were all encumbered with storage. Food services, much the same, carry over now. So really with the revenue side, there's not a lot of anything that stands out. It's usual, not ordinary. On the expenditure side then, if we increase the revenue, we always have to have a balanced budget. So if we increase revenue, we need to increase the expenditure budget so that all the funds are designated. Even, for example, reserves that we bring us up 5.5 million. And right now, our maximum limit on the unrestricted reserve would be between about $7.5 and $8 million, as to what it could float to. And, so I know we discussed earlier, we thought like that would be a focus, and this would be a good step. So that when you do, when you go in for another bond transaction, that we can actually show our district strength, financial strength is increased instead of ignored. So really on this, I don't know if there's any questions anyone has. We could spend all day going over the details of this, but I don't know if that's just unless you have any other concerns.
Any questions?
I have a question. With the change in the health and dental, or health insurance, the basic health insurance going to bind from the previous one, is that still self-insurance?
Yes, yeah, it will, we floated through our books basically the same as we currently are floating through Denmark.
Okay.
It's just a different company, it will be.
Administrative.
Weekly claims to, but yeah, it should be very, very similar to what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay, any others? Okay, Dale, we can go ahead and move on.
So the next thing we need to do is, we're required to, prior to June 22nd, adopt next year's budget. So that's a state requirement that we have. And, is a proposal by the Legislative Fiscal Analyst. Second is by the state school boards, State Board of Education. And then this is the one that's touted as the joint proposal of the Utah School Board Association and the Utah School Superintendent's Association. And then, so these are the proposals that were presented. And then after that was all said and done, the co-chairs of the committee actually put together their recommendation that came back for the committee to consider. And then the last column in green is what the subcommittee finally agreed, is what they would present to the joint appropriations committee. So,
Easy way to understand that, the whole process, is go over to the far left, and if you see a 2 in the column on the far left, that means it's a 2% cut. Then it goes to 5% cut, you'll see a 5 in that column, and then a 10, and that's a 10% cut. And then on the far side, like, right side, Dale tells you, after 6 hours, about 6 hours, maybe even longer meetings, they can see that if we're running out of time, and we really only had one meeting scheduled, they did a second meeting, and so the chairs got together, and that's where Lyle Hilliard really, all the years that I've been here, this is the year that he finally came through for us. And he made sure that capital outlay wasn't included all the way through the 10% cut. So we owe him a great debt of gratitude, and it would be appropriate if you email or call him, or if you see him, tell him thank you for standing up for cash and all the other 19 school districts that really benefit. This is our roofs, this is our asphalt, this is everything that we basically do that we don't bond for in taking care of our public building. And he really helped us.
because the thing we propose is the cut should be made so basically all districts share a portion of it, rather than just singling out individual districts, specific districts that have their own individual challenges or whatever. So in green, the first 2 pages represent what makes up the 2% reduction from the 76 million as they asked. The bulk of that comes from the flex allocation, which goes equally out to all school districts. The one that superintendent question is the administrative cost formula, which only funds districts who have populations less than 10, student populations less than 10,000 students. So we don't get a dime out of this, so this won't affect us at all to have this 5% living, requirement. They just took the balance of the class size reduction fund. That's all that's affected to get it up to 5%. So there went another $130 million, the remaining balance of that.
I think something important we need to know is also allow things this cut will be closer to 2% rather than 5%. Now, that's somebody that has pretty good knowledge of the budgets. He's not on the executive appropriations committee anymore, but that's his assessment, that this will be closer to 2 than 5. So when you see anything in the 10% category, like there's a $10 million cut, I think, for transportation, we're never going to get to those cuts. Unless things really turn out bad. Won't do as well as we do.
Yeah, so all these others, the teacher and student success program, well, the TSSA program, that's much like the school land trust program, where it provides funding for schools directly, basically. And so they were looking at taking 99 million out of that. That would have been probably the largest hit. And 10 million out of the board leeway, so that would give us 5 there too. $8.5 million out of the educator salary adjustment. That's where we pay each teacher, full-time teacher, $4,200, part of their salary comes from that educator salary adjustment line. Principals also get $2,500 of their salary was funded through there. Those are the only two groups that are allowed to receive that funding. The teacher supply allocation they get from the legislature also is proposed to be eliminated. Find that on, but I know that was another one. So that one we're looking to be better. It was $5.5 million that would have been eliminated in that regard. So, but like the superintendent says, our feeling right now is that it's going to be closer to 2% than 5% cut. So anything on this 10% hopefully is just their complete report, nothing to consider. But again, public ed has more than half of the state, or considered more than half of the state funding. So they, in many ways, need to make us carry an equal share as other state agencies, where you're actually decimate a lot of the other state agencies. So we're not going to get out of it scot-free, but I think they're going to take good care of us as best they can through this. Until the Executive Appropriations Committee puts all of the different budgets together, tied out to the total state budget, then we're not going to know exactly where that stands. They are meeting on the 18th and 19th of this month to the entire legislature, a special session, to adjust the budget. So that's when we should find out where we stand and allow us to then start trying to make more meaning out of our budget numbers. So that's kind of with this, unless there's any questions about these cuts. Is that this budget then that we're proposing, the biggest in the salmon colored column for the 2021 year. Again, this is using what the state has given us as the base budget, how that will be allocated out to districts across the state. There are a lot of programs where there were no estimates even given to us of restricted funds. And a lot of the federal, in fact, almost all of the federal programs, there was no estimates provided to us yet as to what against the tax rate, would actually, pay $99 less in taxes this new year than they did last year. A business who's taxed on 100% of the fair market value of their property would see a $180 decrease in property taxes. But like I say, if someone's home has been reappraised, more than this percentage decrease, they are to have an increase in taxes. But those whose homes were not reappraised, they will actually see a tax decrease. The history of tax rates that we have levied over the last 6 years, and you can see, this is in 2015-16 year, total rate was at 81.54, and that's continued to go down every year, with the largest decrease being for this coming year. That's because of the increased growth that we have in the tax base. So, the voted leeway and the board leeway and the capital local levy rates are determined by the county as to what rate would generate the same number of dollars that we had the prior year plus growth. So we don't have any leeway on those rates without it. If it exceeds that amount, we would have to consider it be a tax increase. We'd have to have a truth in taxation hearing and go through the whole process in order to increase taxes. The basic rate is one that hasn't been set yet until all of the counties in the state have finalized their assessed values for their entire county, so that the state will know what rate needs to be applied to generate the total property taxes that the legislature anticipated when they set the budget. So that's the basic rate where every district levies the same tax rate, but it's determined by the state tax commission. The other that is out there is our debt. That is not tied to a fixed rate, it's tied to whatever rate is required to generate the dollar required to pay out that year's debt service requirement. So our debt service is continuing to go down right now, and so that's why that's quite a drop from a little 2784 down to 2367. So this actually shows each of the different tax levies, the rate that's charged. That determines the Valorum taxes that we receive. But then we also receive vehicle fee and lieu revenue and tax sales and redemptions. And those are just prorated out based over the levy that's set to generate the basic property tax. We receive about $2.5 million in vehicle fee and lieu revenue, about $650,000 in redemptions. We are just over $6 billion of assessed property, assessed value property levy taxes. So on the 18th, that'll be one of our requirements, is to set the tax rate for this new year. So what we're proposing is setting the tax rate at the certified tax rate, which is the highest rate we can levy without it being classified as a tax increase. And, but that rate actually, like I say, is going to generate a tax decrease for the majority of taxpayers. Any questions about property tax levy? So, I don't know if you have any real questions about the budget here. It's based on, no increase on the salary schedule. There are steps that have been anticipated, to be covered. The teachers have their experience steps and the salary schedule, the right to fund can, but again, this whole picture isn't whole yet, so we know really what the state revenues are going to be.
So will we just vote on it next time as we approve this as it is right now, or will it be changed by then?
What it'll be is the tax rate, I think, will be unchanged. I mean, that'll,
Mhm.
even if what the state does, it's not going to change what our local property tax rate will be. So that won't be affected, but we do have to approve a budget by next week, but we're not going to know what the adjusted state revenues are going to be at that point. Or maybe would have found out minutes before we hold this meeting. We don't know.
Okay,
So we will actually have to approve a budget, but then recognize that we're gonna do a revision of
Yeah.
that budget later on.
so would it just be time saving now to not go into too much detail about it, and when we get the real thing?
That's what I'd recommend. because
Okay.
A lot of the numbers don't mean a lot.
Excuse me. Yeah,
Why do they ask for that approval at that point? I don't get
It's a
it.
state law.
It's always been that way.
And they don't want to, they talked about, should they waive it this year? And the blowback was, let's just go ahead, because there is a process to revise it after.
so why don't we just move on to the monthly one then? And we'll go into this one when we know.
I agree completely.
Thanks. Excuse me.
Okay, then, the monthly financial report, I didn't put that on here itself, you have it on your, on board docs there. But, really, the only thing that shows in here is recommending the increase in the undistributed reserve from $4.5 million to $5.5 million. That still leaves $2.5 million of unappropriated funds in the general fund. So we're still healthy in that regard.
Did we save money with the schools being closed?
There are some savings. I mean, I'm sure there's some utility savings. It's gonna be hard to know what savings are derived from the lighting retrofit that's going on right now with Johnson Controls, and how much is because nobody's in the classroom, the lights are turned off. They're looking like a road. So Johnson, I think they're really good this year.
You might be happy to know Johnson and Bruce are so pleased with how that Skyview project's going, that we are looking for a way to take the seating towel off the hallway too.
Oh.
It wasn't hard, because we thought it would just never get it all done, but the ceilings are coming down quick.
Good,
So maybe the whole hallway will be done also.
good. Okay,
So really, no change in the budget, it's very strong for this year. You know, it's there, if there's anything to worry about this year's budget, and it should drive well in the next year. If it's fine after this year, it's gonna
okay. Well, thank you, Dale. You always do such a great job. We will go ahead and move on to Jeff and the information that he has.
Okay, I'll be brief. So, Richard has been really good to help us out with the evaluations for, should I just talk loud? No? Okay, let's see.
All those people out there that want to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
sorry, there's not a,
Or do you have one more?
no, I've only got enough for all board members, I'm sorry. I
Okay,
thought there were
I
enough,
don't have one.
but here's, so the bottom line is that in the evaluations, we all feel very good about what Dale and the superintendent are doing. I think both had overall ratings of 9.8 out of 10, which is very good. There's a couple of areas that we as a board felt like maybe we could improve a little bit on. And I'm still working on a few recommendations on that, but I want you to be able to go through the data first so that when I come with some recommendations at the next meeting, you can have a better feeling for maybe which way we ought to head. So I give you that to review. I sent you an electronic copy this afternoon in an email. And we'll, I guess, finalize how we want to move forward after that.
Okay, so I was kind of thinking, since you're going to be gone on the retreat, if maybe we could have this discussion and set our goals for the next year at our next meeting.
Yeah.
Are you good with that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if everybody looks at what our goals are, and they are in the handbook, and then the results of this, and come with some ideas, plus your recommendations, and then we can just discuss that.
Sure.
Okay. Anybody have any questions yet on any of this? Will Dale and Steve get copies of their?
I'll send in the electronic copies, and then I'll see what I can do about getting another set of copies.
Okay, thanks for doing this, Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. If we do it this way, I think it's really pretty easy to do it every year. And it didn't take a lot of
That's
time to do
what
them.
Richard recommends. And I think with our scaled down version,
Yeah.
it's worked a little better that way, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All righty, on the board president report, if all of you'll just click on the safe and healthy school protocols. Steve gave us a copy of some of that, but this is a little longer version of it. And you'll notice at the top that this is just a draft, but this is the report or the guidelines that are suggested at this point, which are going to change daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, as the COVID-19 status changes. But the nurses in the district put this together as to what the protocol would be in our schools when the students are there. If it's a yellow zone, what the protocols would be if it's an orange, I guess it's not called zone, orange alert, and red. And I thought they did a really great job on this. And I also thought that it would probably be helpful for all of us to know this information, so when parents ask us, we can say, well, this is what they have suggested up to this point. So if you haven't had a chance to look through it, please do look through it, so you'll just have that basic knowledge to help the patrons. And these are things that we actually can do as far as trying to help our students stay safe. Any questions on that?
Only caution I'd give is at least make sure that they know that they're really works in progress.
Yeah.
Anytime they could change.
Okay. I haven't had really anybody approach me to ask about this information, but I think as we get closer to school, there probably will be more questions.
It'll become the topic.
Yeah. Okay, and then, let's see, there was a couple of other things. If any of you have any new retreat topics, please send them to me, so I can get them on the list and we can decide next time which ones we'd like to talk about. And does the board want to have a cookout this year, or are we worried about the social distancing? What's your feeling on that?
I'll just drive by and pick up the plate.
I'm
Is there anyone who has concerns about having a cookout? I guess I could kind of social distance you, but I'm not sure. Be honest.
I think the later in the summer, the more comfortable I would probably feel about it,
So maybe not do it in July?
I don't know, I'm just saying the later would probably be better.
Okay.
Hopefully this spike will calm down.
It's not a good time right now in the valley.
All right, well, I won't plan anything for right now then, and let's see how the next month goes, okay? And then we'll come back. Okay, then the last thing here, I was gonna spend a little time with this, but has everybody had a chance to read over this little list? I thought it was kind of interesting. I am a list maker, and, you know, sometimes when people say, well, what does the school board do anyway? And we have a few selected policies that we have to abide by. But then I started to write down things that, while I've been president and slightly before, that we have actually done on this board, which has come from your suggestions, passing them on to the state, to the district, and then them helping us, or us forming committees and getting it done. And this list is really not complete because I've added 4 more, and one of those is, let's see, the parent fees online. I think that got started from some interest on the board. And a little more of a formal board member training, which we've actually only done with you, Chris. So you're the only one that really got a real formal board member training. And I'm sure you've just realized what a great asset that was to help you on the board. And I've got another one down here that I'm not really sure what it means. Oh, and then the student presentations that we've had at the meeting. And then Roger's kind of got going the student input meetings too that I did.
Yeah, what we did were good.
On that. So I think we've done some really good things. And if there's others that you feel that we need to put on this list, I really do want to keep this list of some of the positive things. So when people say, well, what do you guys do anyway? We can say, well, here's the things that we've been working on. And this is not a job where you just come to 2 meetings, 2 Thursdays during the month. There's things that we actually do. So thank you, everyone, for your input, and thanks to the district for letting us follow through with some things and helping us accomplish those things. And this is just a great board, and I think we've done some really good things. So we'll pass it on to you for the
I
super.
don't have anything except one little survey that I've been reading about superintendents and board relationships. The average superintendent in America spends about 30% of the time trying to improve board superintendent relations. I don't spend any time there. I just want you to know that's a real nice feature of being a superintendent in this district. So I don't have to worry about relations with board members and board in total. So thank you very much for that support, and I know the rest of the district feels it also.
I agree. We have a great board. We really do. And appreciate all that you do to make it that way. Does anybody have anything else? Okay, this meeting is adjourned then. And we'll just be back here in 2 weeks.